And we needed to find something that would excite both Five Arts and Cake. Singaporean theatre company, Malaysian theatre company. And we didn't feel like we wanted to do the national identity type thing. We wanted to find something that was common and universal. And at that time, it was interesting because everyone at Five Arts had, or almost everyone, had been a victim of crime. And it was like literally someone at a traffic light with their car and a motorcyclist in bright daylight just smashing the window and pulling out the handbag. People getting beaten up. I mean, there was this guy, another member, there are quite a lot of members in Five Arts, and he was just jogging in his neighborhood. Not even jogging, he was walking in his neighborhood. In his neighborhood, you know, sort of a regular middle class type neighborhood. Some guys got out of a car, bashed him up. So it's bizarre, right? And so, you know, this idea of this crime, this random violence, for me on the rehearsal floor, I wanted to look at that on a larger scale. So basically, violence inherent in society. You know, that was the starting point, this kind of just crimes. But then I wanted to look at things like violence in the things that we do and say and feel, violence in fervor, in vehemence, in you know, in views, violence in the wielding of power. A lot of the stories were inspired by real events that at the time were taking place, were hot topics in Malaysia and Singapore. And we started to play on the floor. And from there, we created episodes, all linked thematically, this theme of violence inherent in society. There's a really funny scene with an Indonesian maid that, you know, and the employer wants to take away her handphone because she like listens to music on it too much, and she gets so, you know, she gets pushed to a corner where the Indonesian maid becomes like a Pontianak. So, you know, it's funny, but you know, the thing about when you deal with an issue like violence, you cannot survive without humor. Joe Kukutas and James and Elaine Pedley are sort of like your veteran. They are the most veteran, you know, like Joe Kukutas, like, you could just kind of like, they should put her on the Petronas Towers, and James too, one on each peak of the Twin Towers. They should do that, because these are just like your, you know, these are like vintage Malaysian actresses. They'd probably be doing theatre before I even knew how to spell theatre. So I was very excited. They really enjoyed the process of sitting down. We spent a lot of time kind of talking things, really getting into in-depth discussion and sharing, and that was very open. It was a luxury. We literally rehearsed from 10 to 10. Elaine Pedley is a dancer, so that was interesting because as a director, I often like to not only work with your classically trained, but, you know, people who are also, you know, perhaps more, you know, have a specialization in other art form. And incorporate it in theatre. For the Singaporean audience, there's going to be definitely certain things that they're going to 100% identify with. And then there's going to be insights. Each episode almost has its own little flavour. Some are quite poetic and lyrical. Some are outright funny and over the top. So I guess it's a bit of you know, there's a lot for an audience to take from it.